In structural engineering, a stress test has a very specific function. You subject a material to maximum, crushing pressure to expose hidden fractures. Looking at a steel beam on a factory floor tells you almost nothing about its durability. A visual inspection is entirely insufficient. You only discover the objective truth about a structure when you push it to its absolute breaking point. We can apply this exact same clinical framework to human psychology. We can test an individual's moral fitness. Apologies and promises are easy to manufacture. A person's true character and their actual capacity for behavioral change can only be measured when they are pushed to their maximum psychological limit. To measure change, we need a baseline. In the book of Genesis, 11 brothers allowed a toxic jealousy to completely compromise their morality. They cast their sibling, Joseph, into a pit and sold him into slavery. Decades later, those same betrayers are standing in Egypt, starving and begging for grain. The absolute ruler deciding their fate is the very brother they discarded, but they have no idea who he is. This setup creates relational asymmetry. Relational asymmetry is a dynamic where one party holds all the information and structural power, allowing them to safely observe the other party's unvarnished behavior. Joseph has total clinical control over his brothers. Before he can safely reveal his identity and reconcile with them, he has to engineer a high-stakes scenario. He needs to see if the muscle of their morality has healed, or if it will snap again under pressure. The methodology of the test is highly specific. First, Joseph orders his steward to secretly load their sacks with the grain they requested and the silver they used to pay for it. 12 identical grain sacks are lined up for the brothers. Joseph injects a crucial variable, hiding his silver cup specifically in the sack of the youngest, Benjamin. He is the targeted pressure point, occupying the exact privileged position that triggered their murderous envy years earlier. The brothers leave the city at sunrise. Their immediate physical needs are met, and they believe they are heading home safely. This establishes a perfectly low baseline stress level right before the spike. The trap is perfectly calibrated. By setting up the new favorite son to fall, Joseph recreates the exact psychological environment of their original betrayal. Joseph applies sudden maximum resistance. His steward aggressively overtakes the brothers on the road and accuses them of stealing the ruler's silver cup. The brothers are entirely confident in their innocence. They categorically deny the theft, foolishly offering up their own lives and freedom if the cup is found among them. The steward begins a methodical search. He checks the sacks in order, starting at the oldest and moving down the line. He deliberately spikes the psychological tension until he opens the final bag and pulls out the silver cup. The steward rejects their offer of a group surrender. He dictates a new term. Only Benjamin will become a slave. The rest are completely free to walk away. This is the crux of the moral stress test. Joseph gives his brothers a legally justified, guilt-free excuse to abandon the favored son to a life of misery. He offers them the exact same choice they failed decades ago. The brothers refuse the easy out. Their immediate physical reaction is to tear their clothes in collective grief, load up their donkeys, and voluntarily march back into the city together. Inside the palace, Judah steps out from the group to address the Egyptian ruler directly. He takes on the heavy lift of the moral test. He delivers a 16-verse argument that functions as a masterclass in empathy. Judah doesn't dispute the evidence or beg for his own life. He focuses entirely on the fragile psychological state of his aged father. He issues a direct warning. He explains that separating this youngest boy from his father will inflict fatal trauma and will literally bring the old man's gray hairs to the grave in sorrow. In their youth, these men completely ignored the suffering they caused their father. Judah's plea proves that the subjects are no longer blinded by selfish jealousy. They have developed the emotional endurance to feel and share in their father's profound pain. Judah then delivers the ultimate proof of their endurance. He volunteers to bear the punishment himself, asking the ruler to keep him as a permanent slave so that Benjamin can go free. This animation measures their historical baseline against their current reaction. Years ago, they chose selfish gain over their brother's life. Today, Judah's choice of absolute self-sacrifice proves the original psychological injury has completely healed. True repentance and reconciliation require data. They represent a measurable state of moral fitness, demanding the strength to carry the heavy weight of responsibility and to sacrifice yourself for those you once would have destroyed.